Hey everyone, and welcome. We are going to be continuing our study in the New Testament. If you were with us last year, we kicked off a study called the 250 Events in the Life of Jesus. And what we did is we spent every day for a little over 250 days, because there were some days where we covered more than one day. Um, but we spent until September, almost October, looking at the 250 events in the life of Jesus through Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. We did this chronologically, and so what we're going to do is we're going to kick off 2025 with a very similar study, but this time we're going to actually do the rest of the New Testament. We got a lot of positive feedback. We tried going into doing some like subject style, different theme style lessons, but most of the feedback I got was, hey, we really enjoyed diving into this, daily, looking at the scriptures, going into what they mean, really looking into what they mean. And so what we decided to do is we're going to just start this over again for 2025. And the study I titled it just was This is Church, because what we're going to be looking at now, starting in Acts, is we're going to be looking at the establishment of the church in Acts, but then how the church played out over the next 30, 40 years. And so, that's going to be the interesting thing. So we're going to be able to look through all these letters from the different writers, from Paul to and James, and the different people who wrote these letters, and then look at the people he wrote them to, and see like the different issues and the different things that the church was dealing with, how they established the church, what the church really looked like in that time. And then we're going to really honestly compare it to how we are today. And again, this isn't going to be a, oh well, we're right, you're wrong type thing, but it's a, hey, let's go back and really dive into this and really look at what the early church looked like. Right, we really dove into how Christ was, right, with people, and how in our previous study. And if you would like to see that, if you haven't had a chance to see that, we're going to put links to everything in here, so you can actually go back. It's on our channel. There's a playlist on our channel where you can go back and go through that. I can give you the documentation and everything if you need it. All you got to do is reach out to us, and we'll do that. But what we're going to do is we're really going to dive into this and go through this on a daily basis. But our thought is hey, we saw how Christ was. We saw how he treated people, and how he's the example for that. And we're going to see how the early church played that out, right? And the fun thing, I think, for me, and maybe I shouldn't say fun, is we're going to see the issues and problems that the church had, right? We're going to see the things that the early church struggled with as Christians, and all this. And so it's going to get rid of that image of this like idea that, hey, we're supposed to cast off this perfect image, and we're supposed to, be perfect, and we're supposed to all these things. And now again, I'm not advocating for lifestyles or anything we shouldn't be doing, but what I want to show is that, man, they struggled. Right, a lot of times we get this picture of the early church of, oh well, they just, look how they did everything. They were great. They grew like in leaps and bounds, and everything was wonderful. No, they had some problems. They had some really serious problems, and we're going to look at that. And I hope that will help us and say, hey, oh man, they messed up, but and so we can do this together. We can do this. If they can do it, then we can do it, right? And so I hope this study really helps as we dive into these things. And I like everything we try to do here. Like, there's some things that we are pretty theological solid. We know that this is what the Bible means. This is what it says, right? But there's some things that we're going to really dive into that even when we're going to look at this, some of Paul's writings are really confusing. They're hard and to understand in a lot of ways. And so we're going to dive into some of that stuff and look at it. And so why I say that to say this is, right, we're not going to come at this as like, oh, we're 100% know this exactly. I've said this before. There's a lot we don't know. There's a lot we're trying to figure out. There's a lot excuse me, there's a lot we think we know, right? And we think we can understand, but man, sometimes there's things that come along, and it's like, oh, well, this was like, wow, there's a change here. Or, oh, we understand this a little differently now. And so we're really going to dive into these things, and have that open mindedness of, hey, this is what we how we study, this is how we look at things. Is we don't approach the Bible and our studies with, we know 100% of everything and we got all the answers. We approach it with an open mind, with an understanding of trying to figure this out, looking at it from lots of different aspects and views. I mean, a lot of this study, when I go in and dive into this, I don't just collect from one source. I actually collect from many sources, and then what I'll do a lot of times and say, hey, there's some people who believe this about this particular subject, and there's others who who believe this about this subject, right? It's and maybe there's somewhere in the middle that I usually end up somewhere in the middle with my teachings and where I am, but it's that idea that we have is like we don't have to all be robots here. We don't have to all think exactly the same. We don't have to there's some things that we will be adamant on, and we'll talk about those when we get to them. They're harder subjects sometimes, but we will. But as we go through this, it's an opportunity for us all to grow. I can tell you this, like going into these studies and doing these studies, there's things sometimes that I think I believe and or feel that I believe, and then I'll study and study and study. It's like, well, maybe I'm leaning this way on this now. Maybe that's not exactly where I landed. And so I hope you can have that same opportunity, because I think that's the only way we really grow in Christ. If we get to the point where we're reading the Bible and you think you have all the answers and you think you know all the answers and you think you have, then you're not going to grow. You're not going to grow spiritually. You're not going to grow in knowledge. And so it's really important that we look at the Bible and study the Bible this way. Again, I'm not saying that we excuse me, I'm getting over a little bit of a cold here. I'm not saying that we just, blindly dive, head first and, oh, well, this, because we're seeing what happens to churches that just openly accept everything and say, oh, well, everything's okay. And no, that's not where we're going to dive and dig in it. And it may go against some of what we've been taught. It may go against some of the things that you grew up with. But again, you may disagree, and that's okay. We can, that's the wonderful thing, is we can agree to disagree on stuff and still, you know, get along and still conversate and have conversations and still worship together, all that stuff. We do it all the time. We see this, we're going to see this in the New Testament, right? There's some friction and stuff, and we see between some of the followers of Jesus and in that. And so there's things where they don't agree on, and they have to work those things out. That's what we're going to do. That's what the early church did. And so as we dive into this, I really hope you want to take the opportunity to follow along with us in this study and dive deep into it. I'm going to put a link for you in the description here where you can sign up for it. If you want to sign up that, because what we're going to do is just like we did with our previous study, every Sunday you'll get a weekly study guide that'll go through our reading for the week. And that study guide has notes and documentations around what we're reading, right? Highlights so you can dive a little bit deeper. I try to, when I write about some of these things or I pull from my sources, I try to put, if there's other scriptures you can dive into, so you can, if you want to, right? You can go as far as you want to. You can dive in a little bit deeper into rabbit holes. And it's not just text. It's, hey, this, here's a subject. This is some things you need to know about this. And here's some scriptures around this as well. And so I hope that will help you as well. So we'll have that, and then we're going to do a daily video. I'll send out a video every day in the morning, usually around 8 o'clock in the morning or so, 7ish to 8ish. And, I text it, email it, and then we have an app that you can go into, and I send that in the app, and then we have discussion in the app and ask questions. And then what we'll do as we hit different subjects, we'll do, I've done Q&As. We've dove into different subjects, and I've just done a short lesson on particular subjects that we needed to dive a little bit deeper into, and we'll do some of that. But my assumption is this will take most of the year to go through. I don't know if we need to use all 365 days, but as we go through it, we'll get there, and we'll fill it in as it goes. One of the things we do try to let the Holy Spirit guide a lot of these things as well. So I try to plan it, but then I take the opportunity to teach and for all of us to grow in areas that we can. So I hope you enjoy this study. Like I said, there's links. I'll have links in the descriptions if you want to sign up. But looking forward to it, and I hope everyone has a wonderful day.